Damn, it seems like these banks had somehow went from bad to ugly.
What?
In this video, I will cover two major topics. The first topic that I would like to cover is the list of recent banks that collapsed. And I will cover any banks that collapsed from 2021 up until now. The second point that I also want to touch upon is my current positions. How many of these banking stocks do I own? Stick around and I will show you guys my personal portfolio. Alright, so from 2021 up until now, there are actually 3 banks that collapse, and some of these collapse could be blamed on the Fed constantly raising the interest rate. Whenever the Fed raised the interest rate, that means that when investors invest in bonds, these bonds have a higher payout than the previous year bonds. And so if a lot of banks invested a lot of money towards their bonds last year, let's say, and then this year the rate went up even more, the banks wouldn't make as much. And a lot of time, the customers that wanted to have a high rate of return just by leaving the money sitting inside the bank, they probably wouldn't make as much versus if the customers were to take the money out, put it in another bank where, they could offer a higher interest rate. So, that's actually one of the reasons why some of these banks fell, because some of the managers invested too much capital on bonds from previous years. And so the previous year returns are actually not worth as much as the current year. Banks have to sell out the bonds for cash. They would have to sell the bond at below par value because the older bonds doesn't worth as much as the current bonds. It's actually one of the main reasons why, some of these banks collapse. The second reason is really comes down to management, right? If some of these managers invested too much in bonds and not enough cash is set reserve, if enough customers wanted to withdraw the money out, these banks would have to sell the bonds at a loss. Without further ado, let's review the top 3 banks. First bank on our list is actually Silicon Valley Bank, which I had covered in one of my previous videos. So Silicon Valley Bank is based in Santa Clara, California. As of March 10th, 2023, it was acquired by another institution. So Silicon Valley Bridge Bank bought out Silicon Valley Bank. Now, there's another bank that I haven't mentioned in my videos, but it's also well documented and talked among the social media community. Signature Bank is based in New York City, in New York. It was acquired by Flagstar Bank as of March 12, 2023. And that was the second biggest bank that collapsed since 2021. The third bank that I talked about recently as well is First Republic Bank. First Republic Bank is based in San Francisco, California. They were closed out as of May 1st, and they were bought out by JP Morgan Chase Bank. Okay, next, let's evaluate each of these banks' historical stock price. So Silicon Valley Bank, it looks like it was delisted as of March 9th. Silicon Valley Bank was closed at $106.04. And notice how it took a big dive from March 8th, it looks like it was closed at $267.83. And then once Silicon Valley Bank was bought out, it closed at 106.04. So that's over 50% in value drop. And honestly, for those that still own shares in Silicon Valley Bank, the fact that it's delisted, I'm not really sure what else could you do about it. All right, next, let's look at Signature Bank. So it looks like Signature Bank started dropping around early March. So around March 6th, it closed at $110.89. And then it looks like it had continued to drop. As of March 10th, it closed at $70. Around March 28th, it closed at 13 cents. And it looks like it has been pretty much hovering around like the 13 cents range. And then the latest closing was as of last Friday, which closed at 12 cents. Even though Signature Bank is not delisted, I think it's just a matter of time till it get delisted off the market. Judging by the pattern here, if it continues to be listed less than $1, then Signature Bank would likely get delisted. The only way that Signature Bank would not get delisted, that's if somehow their market value goes up. So it's possible for Signature Bank to, let's say, have a reverse split. So when you have a reverse split, that's when they could actually increase the stock share price and lower the volume. Typically, when these companies have the reverse splits, that's a bad sign of these companies not making money or they're about to be bankrupt. To be honest, for those of you that still own shares in Signature Bank, I'm not really sure if there's any options for you to come back around from it. Either you sell at a loss right now or just continue to hold on to it. Okay, the next one on our list is First Republic Bank. And First Republic Bank, I had just made a video about this last week. As of last Friday, it closed at 39 cents. So it looks like there's some sort of support level that built up around First Republic Bank recently. But still, because the fact that this stock is still listed below $1, this is not something that I would recommend you putting all of your money on. Maybe just dabble some of your money into it, but definitely do not put your entire life savings on there. Okay, next I will review how many shares do I currently own in these three banking stocks. Okay, for Silicon Valley Bank, it was last value at $106.04 per share, and it was delisted as of March 9th. Currently, I own 0 positions, and even back then when it was going down, this was not a stock that I wanted to play around with and gamble. So I had basically not even invested any money or flipped the stocks in any way. So for Silicon Valley Bank, I currently own 0 shares. Thank God. Next, we have Signature Bank. Signature Bank actually was last closed at 12 cents. This was a bank that I have not played around with. I had not attempted to trade, nor did I invested in this bank ever. So currently for Signature Bank, I own 0 shares. Thank God for that. I have dodged another bullet. Okay, next on my list, I have First Republic Bank. First Republic Bank, it was last listed at 39 cents. Right now, I currently don't own any positions for First Republic Bank. First Republic Bank was one of the few banking stocks that I actually played with earlier this year. I purchased 100 shares. I remember I flipped them twice on Robinhood. Actually, I purchased them twice, 100 shares, and I bought another 100 shares. So I was lucky enough to sell them at a higher price and made some profit off it. But, it was really risky because if I end up holding on to my First Republic Bank shares, then I would have lost most of my money. It went up as high as $16 during earnings, and then after the earnings, it continued to drop and drop until right now, it's actually close to 40 cents a share. So, this was one of the few banking stocks that I've actually played around with and flipped. But I was really lucky that, I've only bought 100 or 200 shares, flipped it twice, I made money both times, and I think that was the last of it. So I was kind of lucky that I dodged a bullet there. Besides these 3 banking stocks, I've also purchased some Charles Schwab. Charles Schwab was another banking stock that I've owned. So I purchased about 100 shares of Charles Schwab, about $50 a share. And I've only purchased it because I noticed that Schwab took a big dive around this time. And then a couple of days later, I sold it for like $50-something in the high 50s, I think. So I had made some nice profit there. But since then, I had stayed away from Schwab. It's too risky for me, and it looks like the trend right now is still going downhill. So Schwab is not something that I would want to play around with any further, even though Schwab is one of my main brokerage. But yeah, those were some of the banking stocks that I've kind of did a small flip on. Please let me know in the comments below if some of you guys are still holding on to any banking stocks. I know I've only mentioned the 3 banks that fell recently, but besides these 3, there were many banks that fell previously prior to 2021. And there's too many of them for me to go over right now. I'm curious to know if some of you are still holding any kind of banking stocks. And if so, let me know what are some of your strategies. Are you planning to hold it onto it further, or are you planning to sell it at a loss? Oh, check out this video that I've posted a couple of months ago on the Silicon Valley collapse.